Mara Cade arrived at Axiom Spire knowing the station did not want her, because Axiom Spire was built for the strongest species in the galaxy and humans were seen as weak. Strange and dangerous at the same time, coming from a planet with crushing gravity. Wild storms, deadly animals, and constant struggle. A world that shaped its people through pain and survival. And as Mara walked through the lower gravity ring of the station, she felt eyes follow her from every corner. Alien cadets whispering, clicking, hissing, and laughing quietly, their bodies tall, armored, clawed, or scaled. While she looked small and plain in her human frame, yet inside her body every bone, muscle, and nerve had been forged under forces most of them would not survive. And she moved with calm control, not proud and not afraid, just alert. Because humans learned early that danger often came without warning. And the corridor she entered was quiet in a way that felt wrong. The lights dimmer than normal, the air still. And before she could turn back, the path behind her closed as 7 figures stepped out from the shadows, spreading around her in a half circle, cutting off every exit, their shapes clear now. A massive Krell with stone-like skin and arms thick as doors. 2 Vesh twins with long bodies and sharp blades. A tall insect-like Threxian with dripping acid mandibles, and 3 others of mixed species. All trained fighters, all bigger than her, and all smiling in their own cruel ways. Because to them this was sport, a lesson, a warning to every human watching. And Mara felt the familiar pull of danger tighten in her chest, but she did not panic. Because panic wastes time, and time is life. And she stood still, breathing slow, her body already preparing for violence. Remembering drills, falls, strikes, broken bones, and endless training under heavy gravity, while the Krell moved first, rushing forward with a roar, believing size was enough. And in that moment the world narrowed for Mara as it always did in a fight, sounds dulling, vision sharpening. Her body moving before thought, stepping inside the swing, driving her elbow upward with all the force of her momentum and mass, shattering the soft parts of the giant's throat, and the Krell collapsed choking, shock written across his face, and before the others could react, she turned, grabbing one Vesh and slamming its head into the wall so hard the metal rang and the body fell limp. And the second Vesh struck at her side, but she caught the blade with her bare hand. Pain flashing bright and sharp, yet ignored because pain was familiar. Because pain did not stop humans, and she drove her fist forward into its chest, breaking through armor and flesh, and the Threxian sprayed acid that burned the floor where it landed. But Mara rolled beneath it, kicked off the wall, twisted in the air, and snapped the creature's neck with brutal speed, landing hard and already moving again as the last 3 attackers rushed her together, believing numbers would save them, not knowing that humans learned to fight when outnumbered, because survival on Earth often meant facing odds that did not care about fairness. And Mara reached for the gravity spike at her belt, slamming it into the floor, causing the gravity in the corridor to surge violently, crushing the aliens down as their bodies failed under the sudden weight. Bones cracking, lungs collapsing, screams filling the air. And she walked through them with steady steps, striking with exact force, not wild, not angry, just efficient, disabling each one before the gravity faded. And when it was over, she stood alone among broken bodies, blood and alien fluid floating slowly in the low gravity. Her hands shaking not from fear but from the effort of control, from holding back the deeper strength humans carried, because she knew if she lost control the damage would be worse, and alarms began to scream as station security and medical drones rushed in, finding 7 elite cadets broken and 1 human standing untouched except for a bleeding hand. And the shock of the moment spread quickly through the station, through the academy, and then through the galaxy. because the cameras had seen everything, the 9 seconds that showed what a Deathworlder truly was. And as Mara looked up at the ceiling, meeting the cold lens watching her, she understood that this fight was never just about her survival. It was a message written in motion and blood, a warning and a truth. That humans did not need claws or armor or size, because they carried their world inside them, and that world had taught them how to endure, how to strike, and how to win when they should not. After the 9-second fight on Axiom Spire, the footage of Mara Cade's unmatched skills spread across the galaxy like wildfire, sparking awe, fear, and anger in equal measure as news networks, military channels, and council archives replayed every second, showing a human cadet moving faster, stronger, and more precise than 7 elite alien fighters combined, and within hours, debates erupted in the halls of the Galactic Council, where representatives of dozens of powerful species argued over what to do with humanity, claiming they were too dangerous to train, too unpredictable to trust, and too strong to ignore, while human diplomats watched quietly, knowing the galaxy had underestimated them for centuries, and Mara herself sat confined in a small chamber aboard Axiom Spire, surrounded by the hum of automated systems and the occasional hiss of a passing security drone, feeling no fear for herself because humans had survived worse, but thinking of what this attention might mean for the people of her world who were far away on Earth and human colonies. Unaware of the storm approaching, as the Council's arguments escalated into action, and within 3 days the Korth Dominion, one of the galaxy's largest militarized states, declared a so-called preventive intervention against humanity, sending massive war fleets through human space without warning, bombarding outlying colonies, burning cities, and shattering space stations while billions of humans fled to hiding stations, underground bunkers, and fast-moving civilian ships. And the chaos was overwhelming because the Korth expected minimal resistance, thinking humans would crumble under pressure like most species did, yet humanity's response was immediate, coordinated, and deadly. As surviving military commanders gathered remnants of fleets, organized strike teams, and prepared for guerrilla-style attacks in space, knowing that conventional methods could not match the Korth numbers, and Admiral Rios personally requested Mara's release from confinement, promoting her to lead Strike Group 9, a small, fast, and heavily armed squadron, because her reputation had become a rallying symbol, and Mara accepted with quiet determination, understanding that she would face impossible odds again, yet humans always seem to thrive when pushed to extremes. And her first engagement demonstrated exactly why, as she led her ships in a series of ambushes against Korth supply convoys, using techniques taught in human survival schools combined with spacecraft maneuvers that other species considered suicidal, weaving through asteroid fields, hiding in gas clouds, and emerging at precise moments to strike with railguns, plasma torpedoes, and boarding parties, overwhelming the enemy in ways that seemed impossible, and every victory, small or large, spread hope among human colonies and fear through the Korth command. Because the humans did not fight like other species, they adapted, improvised, and used the environment to their advantage, understanding risk in ways aliens did not, and Mara herself became the heart of the legend, personally leading missions where her ship survived direct attacks, engines failing, shields collapsing, yet she maneuvered with courage and precision, ramming enemy cruisers, leading boarding parties through vacuum, floating through open airlocks with rifles ready. Helmet cracked, blood floating around her face, while her crew followed without hesitation because humans trusted each other implicitly in combat, and the alien attackers soon began to recognize that these humans were not ordinary soldiers, that the humans did not fear death, and that one human could turn the tide of a battle through skill, speed, and sheer willpower. And as the Korth fleet advanced relentlessly toward Earth, Mara and her strike group performed a series of daring raids that destroyed command ships, supply lines, and morale centers, leaving the enemy fleet stretched thin, confused and vulnerable, while civilian populations watched human heroes perform what seemed impossible. As radio and video transmissions broadcast every maneuver, every boarding, every victory across human systems, giving hope to the fleeing populations. And yet the stakes kept rising because the Korth had the numbers, the heavy artillery, and the technology to crush human resistance completely if they coordinated effectively, which made every decision Mara made critical, every move precise, and every strike necessary. Because humanity could not afford mistakes, and the humans relied on ingenuity more than brute force, using clever tactics like decoy fleets, sudden gravity manipulations, electromagnetic pulses, and suicidal charges when needed, and all the while Mara's mind remained focused, her body steady, because humans learned from their harsh homeworld that survival demanded awareness, anticipation, and action, and as the fleets clashed in the cold darkness between stars, Mara realized that the final confrontation would come sooner or later, a massive engagement that would decide the fate of Earth and human colonies, where every lesson, every drill, and every fight she had endured would be tested to the extreme. And even though fear lurked at the edges of the mind, as it did for all humans, she embraced it as a tool, a reminder that living and fighting required both caution and courage. And when the command came that the Korth flagship and its fleet were approaching the inner defense line near Earth, every human vessel was ready, guided by Mara's strategy, timing, and instinct. Because the humans had learned to take what seemed impossible and make it possible, to turn disadvantage into opportunity, and while the aliens believed numbers would overwhelm, humans understood that determination, adaptability, and unity could defy statistics. And every maneuver Mara ordered, every strike her pilots executed, every trap laid in the void of space demonstrated that humanity had inherited something unique from their homeworld: the relentless drive to survive and the unshakable courage to fight when all seemed lost. And in those days of rising conflict, amidst explosions, radio chatter, and the glowing wrecks of enemy ships, humanity grew stronger, not just in ships and weapons, but in spirit, proving to the galaxy that Deathworlders were not simply survivors, they were warriors, innovators, and a force to be reckoned with, as Mara Cade led each mission with unwavering focus, calculating risks, exploiting weaknesses, and showing allies and enemies alike that the heart of a human could turn the tide of war. And when the fleets finally neared Earth, the humans were ready, not with the largest armada, not with the most advanced technology, but with the skill, courage, and determination that only humans from a death world could possess. And the stage was set for a confrontation that would either crush humanity or immortalize it in the annals of galactic history. As Mara stood at the center of it all, a symbol of what humans could endure, achieve, and overcome, proving that even against impossible odds, human ingenuity and resilience could defy the expectations of the galaxy and carve victory from the jaws of destruction. As the Korth Armada approached Earth, the human defense fleet formed a fragile but determined line in the darkness of space. Stretching across thousands of kilometers, ships of all sizes bristling with weapons and shields, pilots gripping controls with tense hands, knowing that every decision could mean life or death. And Mara Cade stood on the bridge of her flagship, eyes scanning the approaching enemy, every sensor light and readout a reminder that the fate of her world rested in their hands, while Admiral Rios moved among the ships, giving orders, inspiring courage, and reminding every human that they were not just fighting for survival, but for the honor and existence of their species. And as the Korth fleet fired first, their massive energy cannons lighting up the void like molten stars, the human ships dodged, twisted, and weaved in ways the enemy had never seen. Smaller, faster, more agile, taking advantage of every asteroid, debris field, and gravity well. And Mara's voice came over comms, steady and commanding, guiding her pilots through complex maneuvers, anticipating attacks and exploiting weaknesses in enemy formations. While explosions erupted around them, ships torn apart, metal twisting, energy leaking into space, and yet humanity fought on, not retreating, not panicking, because fear was a tool, a motivator, a reminder that every breath was a gift and every action mattered. And as the battle raged, Mara's ship took a direct hit from a Korth capital ship. Shields failing, engines damaged, life support systems flickering and sparking, yet she remained calm, assessing the situation in seconds, realizing that escape was impossible without abandoning her crew. And with a quiet determination, she ordered the evacuation of her team, watching them leave in small pods while she remained aboard, knowing that the next few moments would determine the outcome of the entire engagement. And as she prepared, she set the ship on a collision course with the enemy flagship, calculating the trajectory, the timing, and the impact that would not just destroy one ship but create chaos in the enemy fleet, breaking their command and shattering morale. While sensors warned of incoming fire, missiles streaking through the void, and Mara used every skill she had learned to dodge, twist, and position her ship perfectly for maximum effect, knowing that if she succeeded, humanity would survive, and if she failed, billions could die. And as she neared the Korth flagship, she reflected briefly on Earth, on the storms, mountains, deserts, and oceans that had shaped her people, teaching them endurance, courage, and ingenuity. And with a final decisive action, she overloaded her reactor, releasing a controlled chain reaction that turned her ship into a living bomb, hurtling into the Korth flagship with blinding light, fire, and destruction, ripping through the enemy's command center, shattering bridges, disabling communications, and causing confusion and panic to spread through the armada. While the rest of the human fleet seized the opportunity, striking with renewed energy, attacking the scattered enemy vessels, and gradually pushing them back, their losses severe, morale broken, and their advance halted, and in the aftermath, the human fleet regrouped, rescuing survivors, salvaging what they could, and assessing the cost, knowing that countless ships had been lost. But Earth itself had been saved, and while Mara Cade was officially listed as missing in action, her legend had already been cemented in human history and across the galaxy, her courage, sacrifice, and skill inspiring not only her own species but causing even the Korth and other alien civilizations to respect, fear, and reconsider humanity's place in the universe. And in the years that followed, the story of the Deathworlder cadet who had faced impossible odds, taken the fight directly to the enemy, and changed the course of a galactic war was told repeatedly at academies, in training sessions and in private discussions, serving as a lesson that humans, forged by a hostile planet, carried within them the ability to endure, adapt, and triumph where others would fail. And while Mara herself may have disappeared into the void of space, the impact of her actions rippled across stars, a reminder that the heart, mind, and courage of a single human could alter the fate of billions, that ingenuity and bravery could outweigh numbers and technology, and that the legacy of humanity was not just survival, but the unyielding spirit to fight, to endure, and to rise above any odds. And as generations remembered her, plaques, memorials, and stories kept her memory alive, a symbol of what it meant to be a human. And whenever alien species looked down on humans, laughing at their size, their technology, or their seeming weakness, someone, somewhere, remembered Mara Cade. The Deathworlder cadet, and the 9 seconds that had shown the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. That even when outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched, the courage, determination, and will of humanity could change everything. And this became the foundation of human pride, strength, and reputation in the galaxy, teaching both humans and aliens that the universe was full of unknowns, and that one determined human could defy expectation, alter strategy, and leave a legacy that would endure across centuries. A living example of why Earth's children, born of hardship, could face any challenge, confront any foe, and emerge victorious through skill, courage, and sheer indomitable spirit.